Hi, I'm Olympic Slayer, and today I'm going to show you the one piece of equipment that I would recommend for you to have in the Pacific Northwest.
Hi, this is Clarence. I'm here with the Olympic Slayer, and today we're going to talk a little bit about one of his favorite products. I'm a big fan of all of his videos, Wildcat Lakes. Every time something comes out, I jump on it right away. It's beautiful parts of the Pacific Northwest that I don't think I would ever see if he wasn't bringing these videos to us. So we talk about hiking and stuff like that. I'm very interested to get involved and get started. It looks gorgeous out there. And so one of the things I was asking him recently was, what are a couple things, if you want to get serious about hiking, camping out in the Pacific Northwest, what are a couple of things that you couldn't live without? And so today he's going to show us one of his probably top favorite pieces of equipment. So Dave, you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, I have my absolute most favorite piece of equipment on earth, and it is my Feathered Friends Ibis sleeping bag.
So you bought this thing when?
I bought this in 2019, and I bought it from Feathered Friends, which is a cottage company. Cottage companies are American-made products that are made right here in the United States, obviously. And
so you just walked in and bought this one day, or you did a bunch of research and how did it come to be?
I scoured the earth for the best sleeping bag, and I was following many we'll say online accounts to try to do the most amount of homework to find the best sleeping bag that fits the niche. Living in the Pacific Northwest, you have cold, you have rain, you have just about anything that it can be thrown at you. And so where we landed was this Feathered Friends sleeping bag.
And what is something like that, when you're a high piece of equipment like that, a high-end piece of equipment, what is that going to run you?
You really want to know?
Let's see.
This today would probably be $950 before tax. And the reason it is because it's extra tall. It's made out of 950 down fill. It's made with a hood. And it's got YKK zippers.
Well, I noticed, like, my old Coleman, $50 sleeping bag does not have this shape. I see that this one forms to your body a little bit more. It's got kind of a cone shape. Is that an advantage?
Well, this is called the mummy style, and it's narrow. It's probably about 1.5 feet there. You really only need a place for your feet to be. And what I talked about earlier is it being longer so that you're not touching your feet at the end of the toe box. Also, at the top, the hood allows you to, for a tall guy like me, I'm 6 foot, to put this over my head.
And it straps around the chin, kind of like a hoodie. Yes,
it has straps, and then it also cinches. And so you can cinch it down around your head and just breathe out of a tiny little porthole and really just get out of the elements fast.
Nice. Yeah, it kind of holds that heat from your head, that escapes from your head. That's an awesome way to capture that heat to keep you warm. So you've used this thing in the snow, you used it in the summertime, you use this thing all year round. This is not a seasonal piece of equipment, right?
No, I use this all over the place. In fact, I subscribe to this one product kind of condition thing. You're talking about, I've used this 0 degrees on top of mountains, freezing conditions at alpine lakes, and then also I've even used it, close to 70 degrees at night, camping in the national forest here locally. And it's because I can just unzip this, and you don't have to be all like cocooned inside of it or anything like that. You can peel off and just use it as a comfortable place.
Okay, you just let the air in, let it breathe, and you don't get overheated. Okay, and so you use this under the stars, just out on the ground. You've used it in tent. You used it in a camper. All those things.
Yeah, it's funny. We'll sleep in the back of our car with it sometimes. We went and climbed mountains, slept in our car, and then you launch out. 2 o'clock in the morning. At an alpine start. So it really is just the comfortable sleeping bag, the all around. One product for everything type of product.
So let me ask you this. So you're going way up to one of these lakes that only a handful of people, see every year, primitive conditions, stuff like that. How are you packing this thing up there? You're not driving, right, to your campground. You might be hiking 7, 8, 10 miles to some of these spots. So how are you transporting this thing?
So I use, my pack is a Hyperlite, and Hyperlite mountain gear. And so I learned from through hikers, because I've modeled all my gear around through hiking, but then also mountain climbing. And so, like, if you can imagine a genre that sucks both of those in, what they all do is just jam it into the bottom of their sleeping their pack, excuse me. And so the very first thing I put into my pack on any trip is this sleeping bag, and I jam it down to where just the air is all the way out of it, so that I can put all my gear on top of it in the pack.
Okay, all right. Yeah. And then, so you've been out, throw a scenario at you, you've been out for a week, out in the backcountry, and you get back. How do you maintain this thing? I mean, you said you've had this thing since 2019. It's 2025 now, so for 6 years, it still looks great. It's in great condition. What do you got to do when you come home to make sure that you keep this thing ready to go for the next trip, clean, not stinking too bad, dry, all that kind of stuff?
Believe me, that is a factor. Okay. Sleeping bags get stinky, they get gross, they smell like smoke and all that. There are a couple things that you want to do to really keep your sleeping bag in good condition. First of all, never ever keep your sleeping bag bound up in anything. So you want the down to relax. What we do when we're not using it is hang it on a hanger and put it in our closet, so that the down is also, to kind of just...
That's a great tip.
Generally speaking, when you're talking about cleaning your sleeping bag, a non-toxic wipe does really well. It just kind of like wipe you would wipe your counter down in your house. Mm-hmm. You wipe the surface of this down, get the dirt off of it, get the sweat off of it, and then it's just, it's a piece of equipment you just want to make last as long as you can, because at $950, I mean, like, nobody, that's hard to afford.
It's not one of those pieces of equipment where you're going to use 3 times and lose interest and
exactly.
toss it out, right? You want to make sure that thing is good to go every time.
If you've looked at my Instagram, I have went all over hell, and so to go all over hell, you have to have the right equipment, and this is just one piece. This is my favorite piece of equipment, because obviously you're sleeping in it, you want to be comfortable. The last thing you want to do is...
And it becomes a safety issue, right? I mean,
oh yeah, absolutely.
The last thing you want to do is get caught, out there, in 0 degree. You think you've thought of it all, but you got your $50 Coleman or, a big name brand, and you're out there and you're freezing your ass off, and what you thought was going to be great turns out to be a disaster, right?
I've had it happen before. Yeah. When I went to Upper Lena Lake, it was 70 degrees and partly cloudy down below. We marched 4,000 feet up in the air, and now it was drizzling and in the 40s. And so we quickly put our tent up and hopped in the sleeping bag, and my wife was so cold at the time that she had my down jacket on. She was using her sleeping bag over top of her, and then I said, hey, why don't you just get in here with me and we'll do the 2-body thing, and this is big enough to put 2 people in.
Nice.
And I want to mention one other thing. This sleeping bag, how heavy do you think this weighs?
Maybe 1.5 pounds.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah.
And so another one of these, pay for what you get, just $9.50 down, and it's got, I think it's like a 30 denier ripstop on it. Maybe it's 20 denier without looking. But the strength of the ripstop is what keeps it from tearing and stuff like that. But the feathers inside is what keeps you warm. And so if you could imagine your house as being an insulated body, the walls have insulation in them, and what that's doing is insulating the inside of your house from the outside of your house, right? So it's really important to have the right side of insulation in your sleeping bag. So, yeah.
All right, well, before we sign off, is there any other details you'd like to tell us about this very important piece of equipment?
What I'd like to say generally is that, you ever heard of the term don't fake the funk?
Yeah.
This is a don't fake the funk kind of thing. Now, that being said, I think there are probably better sleeping bags for camping on top of Mount Rainier or something like that. Mm-hmm. You have to, this is going to take you so far. Most of everything, we'll say 99% of everything in the Pacific Northwest is going to be with one sleeping bag. Yeah. And so I think, the moral of the game, if you're looking for a sleeping bag to buy or, to be comfortable in, is do your homework. Buy American. You know what I mean? We live in America.
And well, especially like you got a lot of Northwest companies,
Yeah.
you know, that specialize in stuff, and they know the elements here,
Yeah.
right? They're from here, they know what you need, and they put a lot of hard work and thought and good quality materials into their product.
Right. Yeah. I try to buy only cottage, only local, only from the people who know what's going on around here. You know, I've taken this sleeping bag up to Mount Hood, you know, Mount Adams, numerous. I can't even count how many alpine lakes I've went to. But I bet you I've taken this to 20 alpine lakes, you know. And again, we're talking about conditions where this isn't your backyard camping. This isn't Coleman camping.
Right.
This isn't even, you know, I don't even know what a brand that REI sells, but you know, this isn't that.
And then talking about you know, we talked about durability. One thing I want to, you know, touch on before we go is like, this is not a piece of equipment that you've used like 3 times a year in the 5 years that you've owned it, 6 years that you've owned it, right? This is something that you've used over and over and over, right? And so when we're talking about, you know, what great condition it's still in and the durability, we're not talking about 6 years old and been used 20 times. We're talking about this thing's been used.
Yeah, I bet you I've probably used this in the order of, man, I bet you 50 times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe, I guess that comes in spurts. You know, it goes, you do 10 trips one summer, you know, 5 trips in the winter, this and that,
Sure.
you know what I mean? So it's kind of tough without looking at it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've definitely used the crap out of this thing, and it's damn near perfectly brand new because you pay for what you get.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's going to do it for us today. We'll try to do a few more of these reviews upcoming, and Dave's got a lot of great equipment, and so we're going to take a look at some of that stuff, and we'll come back to you. But for now, we're signing off, and if you liked the video, you found it useful or informative, give us a like, give us a follow, and see you next time.
All right, see you guys later.